They believed their planet was the harshest. Then they encountered Earth. The massive ship hummed quietly as it drifted through the emptiness of space. Inside, Commander Voss stood with his hands behind his back, watching the stars through the main viewport. His thick gray skin was covered in natural armor plates that shifted slightly with each breath. Born on the planet Draken, his body had evolved to survive crushing gravity, toxic air, and temperatures that would kill most living things in the universe. "Commander, we have detected a new solar system," Lieutenant Kira announced from her station. Her scaled fingers moved quickly over the control panel as information flowed directly into her mind through neural implants. Like all Draconians, her eyes were protected by transparent membranes that could filter harmful light. Voss nodded and stepped closer to the main screen. "Show me." The screen lit up with images of a yellow star and its planets. Kira zoomed in on a blue and green world that orbited at just the right distance from its sun. "Interesting," Voss said, leaning forward. "What are the readings?" "The planet has dangerous levels of oxygen, Commander. The temperature ranges from freezing to boiling depending on location. The gravity is 0.8 of Dracon standard." Kira paused, her scales changing color slightly in surprise. "And there are signs of advanced civilization." This caught Voss's attention completely. He turned to face the science team. "Advanced life forms in those conditions? Impossible." Chief Science Officer Allen approached holding a data tablet. His specialized breathing apparatus clicked as he processed the toxic-free air mixture all Draconians required. "Not impossible, Commander. Unlikely, but the readings are clear. There is a dominant species inhabiting nearly every region of the planet." The Draconian crew gathered around the central display table as Allen projected a three-dimensional image of Earth. The planet rotated slowly, revealing continents, oceans, and patterns of light that indicated cities. "How could anything intelligent evolve in such a hostile environment?" asked Security Officer Paul. His thicker armor plates marked him as part of the warrior caste, genetically enhanced for combat in extreme conditions. Voss studied the projection carefully. On Dracon, their people had emerged from evolutionary pressures that created the ultimate survivors. Their lungs could filter toxic gases. Their skin could withstand radiation and extreme temperatures. Their bones were dense enough to support their bodies under crushing gravity. These adaptations had shaped their entire civilization. Survival was not just a goal, but a fundamental value that defined their society. "What do we know about these creatures?" Voss asked. Medical Officer Eva stepped forward. Unlike the others, her scaled skin was smoother, adapted for the precision work required in medical procedures. "From our long-range scans, they appear to be soft-bodied carbon-based organisms, no exoskeleton, limited temperature resistance, and highly vulnerable to radiation. They require constant oxygen intake and appear to have no natural armor." The crew exchanged confused glances. How could such weak creatures build a civilization? "Perhaps they live primarily underground," Paul suggested. "Or in protective structures." Kira shook her head. "No. Scans show they move freely across the planet's surface. They have settlements in frozen regions, deserts, and even along the edges of active volcanoes." "This requires further investigation," Voss decided. "Prepare the Indomitable for a closer approach. We will maintain stealth protocols. This discovery could change our understanding of what makes a species successful." As the Draconian science vessel altered course toward Earth, the crew began their preparations. For generations, the Draconians had believed themselves to be the ultimate example of evolutionary success. Their harsh homeworld had forged them into beings capable of surviving conditions that would instantly kill most species. This belief shaped their society, their technology, and their understanding of their place in the universe. "Commander," Allen said quietly as he worked beside Voss at the planning table, "what if these beings have developed adaptations we cannot detect? What if they are more resilient than they appear?" Voss considered this as he studied the preliminary reports. "All life adapts to its environment, Allen. Our ancestors survived the Great Burning when Draken's atmosphere became toxic. They endured the gravity shift when our planet's core densified. Those who could not adapt perished. It is the way of all worlds." Yes, Commander, but... Alan hesitated, his scales shifting to a thoughtful blue color. What if adaptation takes forms we have not considered? The question hung in the air as the ship's engines adjusted for the new course. Voss had no answer yet, but soon they would know more about these strange beings who had somehow thrived in conditions that the Draconians considered deadly. 3 days later, the Indomitable settled into orbit around Earth's moon, hidden from Earth's primitive detection systems. The crew worked in shifts gathering data, monitoring communications, and studying the planet's diverse environments. They call themselves humans, Kira reported during the daily briefing. Their global information network is surprisingly advanced, though chaotically organized. They have thousands of languages and cultural groups. And they fight constantly, Paul added, reviewing military transmissions, not just with their environment, but with each other. Voss found this especially difficult to understand. On Dracon, survival required cooperation. The harsh conditions of their world had eliminated those who wasted resources on conflict. Every Draconian knew their role and worked for the good of all. Division meant death. Show me their adaptations, Voss commanded. How do they survive? Their world's extremes? Eva displayed images captured by their long-range scanners. Humans climbing ice-covered mountains with minimal protection. Humans diving into ocean depths. Humans building dwellings in deserts and jungles. This makes no sense, Eva said, genuine confusion in her voice. Their bodies show no special adaptations for these environments. They use external tools and coverings, but their physical forms remain the same. Voss watched footage of humans running across open ground during a lightning storm, of humans entering burning buildings to rescue others, of humans traveling through space in what the Draconians considered laughably fragile vessels. They should not be able to survive, let alone thrive, Voss said finally, and yet they have spread across their entire planet and begun reaching for the stars. The command center fell silent as the Draconians contemplated this puzzle. Everything they knew about survival and evolution told them that these humans should not exist. Their soft bodies and constant need for specific environmental conditions should have made advanced civilization impossible. I believe we need closer observation, Voss decided. Prepare remote drones for deployment to the surface. We need samples of their technology, their biology, and their environments. As the crew moved to carry out his orders, Voss remained at the viewport, staring down at the blue planet. For the first time in his life, he questioned the fundamental beliefs of his people. The Draconians had always assumed that physical resilience was the ultimate evolutionary advantage. But these humans suggested another possibility, one that Voss could not yet fully comprehend. What if the greatest adaptation was not the ability to withstand harsh conditions, but something else entirely? They believed their planet was the harshest. Then they encountered Earth. The small drone descended through Earth's atmosphere, its outer shell glowing red from the friction. Inside the Indomitable, Commander Voss and his team watched through the drone's cameras as clouds parted to reveal the landscape below. Oxygen levels are higher than expected, Lieutenant Kira reported, monitoring the incoming data. The drone's protective coating is already showing signs of oxidation. Maintain course, Voss ordered. He had selected a remote area in what humans called Iowa for their first close observation. The region had lower population density but still contained human settlements, farms, and basic infrastructure. Surface temperatures varying between 15 and 25 degrees. Science Officer Allen noted, moisture levels fluctuating wildly. How do they function without environmental stabilizers? The drone's cameras showed fields of tall green plants, arranged in neat rows that stretched to the horizon. Roads cut through the landscape with occasional structures scattered across the countryside. Those plants are called corn, Kira said, referencing the human data they had collected. It's a food source. They grow it instead of synthesizing nutrition. Primitive, Paul commented, his warrior instincts always evaluating potential threats. But effective for their technology level. The drone continued its descent, now hovering 100 meters above a cornfield. Its sensors collected samples of air, analyzed light patterns, and recorded the movements of small creatures in the vegetation below. I want soil samples, Voss said, and if possible, a specimen of their plant life. The drone lowered further, extending a collection arm toward the cornstalks. Suddenly, warning lights flashed across the control panel. "Commander, there's a malfunction in the stability system," Alan called out. "The drone is losing altitude control." On the screen, they watched as the drone pitched sideways, its collection arm tangling in the tall plants. The camera view spun wildly as the machine crashed into the field. "Status?" Voss demanded. "The drone is damaged but partially functional," Kira replied, working quickly to establish connection. "Basic systems are online, camera and sensors still operational." "Can we retrieve it?" Kira shook her head. "Not without revealing ourselves. The stealth systems are offline." Voss considered their options. The mission protocols were clear: avoid direct contact unless absolutely necessary. But losing their technology to the humans could compromise much more than this single mission. "Keep monitoring," he decided. "If humans discover it, we'll need to intervene." They didn't have to wait long. Less than an hour later, the drone's camera showed a human approaching through the corn. He was a tall male with weathered skin and strong hands. A farmer, according to their research on human occupations. He wore simple blue clothing and a cap that shaded his eyes from the sun. "Interesting specimen," Medical Officer Ava observed. "Look at how freely he moves in the open air, with no breathing apparatus or skin protection." The human, Jack Williams, knelt beside the drone. His expression showed curiosity rather than fear as he reached out to touch the strange metal object. "He's not afraid," Paul said, surprised. "Any rational being would show caution when encountering unknown technology." "Their species shows unusual behavioral patterns," Eva replied. "Their survival instincts appear to be overridden by curiosity in many cases." They watched as Jack examined the drone carefully, then pulled a small device from his pocket, a communication tool they had learned. He spoke into it, and soon the camera showed him walking away. "He's leaving it there," Alan said. "Perhaps he assumes it's dangerous?" "No," Kira corrected, monitoring the audio. "He's calling for help. Someone with more knowledge about technology." Less than 30 minutes later, a vehicle approached the field. 2 humans emerged. Jack returned, now accompanied by a female, with gray hair and glasses. She carried a case of tools and moved with the confidence of someone with technical knowledge. "That's his neighbor," Kira reported, cross-referencing with intercepted communications. "Susan Miller, former engineer for their space program." The crew watched with growing concern as Susan opened her case and began examining the drone with professional interest. Her fingers traced the unusual metal alloys and unfamiliar components. "This is definitely not one of ours," they heard her say through the drone's microphone. "I've never seen materials like this before." Jack knelt beside her. "Government? Foreign, maybe." Susan shook her head. "No country on Earth has metallurgy this advanced, and look at this power source. It's still active, but like nothing I've seen before." Commander Voss stood up straight, his scales darkening with concern. "They're going to take it apart. Prepare for emergency contact protocol." "Commander," Paul cautioned, "direct contact violates at least 7 regulations. And letting them reverse engineer our technology violates more," Voss replied firmly. "Prepare the shuttle." "Lieutenant Kira, Medical Officer Eva, you're with me. We need a small team that won't intimidate them." As the Draconians hurried to prepare for Earth's toxic atmosphere, Susan and Jack loaded the drone into their vehicle. The last images from the drone showed them driving down a dirt road toward Jack's farmhouse. "Environmental suits secured and tested," Eva reported as the team gathered in the shuttle bay. Their suits were bulky by Draconian standards, necessary protection against Earth's oxygen-rich air and countless microorganisms. "Remember," Voss instructed as they boarded the small craft, "we are not conquerors or explorers here. We are retrieving lost technology, minimal interaction with the natives." The shuttle launched from the Indomitable, its advanced stealth systems concealing it from Earth's detection methods. As they descended through the atmosphere, the craft shuddered violently. "These air currents are more turbulent than predicted," Kira noted, adjusting their flight path. Their weather patterns are chaotic, all part of their harsh environment, Voss replied. Focus on the landing coordinates. The shuttle tracked the drone's emergency beacon to a simple white structure surrounded by outbuildings. Jack Williams's farm. They set down in the same cornfield where the drone had crashed, flattening a circle of plants beneath them. Atmosphere analysis confirms high oxygen content, Eva said, checking her instruments. Environmental suits are essential. Exposure to unfiltered air would cause severe tissue damage within minutes. The Draconians checked each other's suits one final time before opening the shuttle door. The brightness of Earth's sun made them squint despite their protective visors. The gravity was lighter than Dracon's, but somehow more disorienting. Their bodies, evolved for specific conditions, struggled to adjust to Earth's different gravitational patterns. Movement detected, Paul reported through their communication system. Several humans approaching from the main structure. Voss stepped forward, leading his small team down the ramp and onto Earth soil for the first time. The corn plants brushed against their suits as they emerged into a clearing where Jack and Susan waited. Behind them stood several other humans who had gathered after seeing the shuttle descend. Translator systems active, Kira confirmed. We can understand their speech and respond in their language. Jack Williams stepped forward, his posture showing curiosity rather than aggression. In his hand, he held a piece of the drone. Behind him, Susan looked on with professional interest while other neighbors showed expressions ranging from fear to excitement. Welcome to Earth, Jack said simply, his voice calm despite the extraordinary situation. I'm guessing this is yours? He held up the drone component. The Draconians stood motionless for a moment, shocked by this reception. According to their contact protocols, primitive species typically responded with either worship or hostility. This calm curiosity was unexpected. Through the translator, Commander Voss spoke his first words on Earth. We are from Draken. Your world should be uninhabitable to intelligent life. We came to study how you survive. Susan laughed, the sound strange to Draconian ears. Funny. I was about to ask you the same thing about those suits. You look like you're having a rough time, even with all that protection. They believed their planet was the harshest. Then they encountered Earth Commander Voss stared at the human woman who had just laughed at them. His translator had properly conveyed her words, but her reaction confused him. Their mission briefings had not prepared the Draconians for this kind of response. Our environmental suits are necessary, Voss explained. Your atmosphere contains oxygen levels that would poison our bodies. Your microorganisms would attack our tissues immediately. Susan's eyebrows rose in surprise. Oxygen is toxic to you? That's fascinating from a biological standpoint. More humans had gathered at the edge of the cornfield. A man in a uniform with a badge approached cautiously. The Draconians recognized this as a sign of authority based on their research. I'm Sheriff Doug Peterson, the man said, his hand resting near a weapon on his belt. Would someone like to explain what's happening? On Jack's farm, Jack stepped between the sheriff and the aliens. They came for their drone, Doug, the one that crashed in my field earlier. They're not causing any trouble. The sky darkened suddenly as clouds moved across the sun. Lieutenant Kira looked upward with concern. Commander, our atmospheric analysis indicates a weather disturbance approaching. Eva checked her instruments. Barometric pressure dropping rapidly. Electrical discharge detected in the cloud formation. A loud rumble of thunder made the Draconians flinch inside their protective suits. On Draken, such sound waves could indicate dangerous seismic activity. Storms coming in fast, Jack said, noticing their reaction. These summer thunderstorms can get pretty intense. You folks might want to get back in your ship. Another crack of thunder sounded closer this time, followed by a flash of lightning that illuminated the darkening field. The Draconian suits began to register electromagnetic interference. Our shuttle systems are vulnerable to electrical discharge, Kira reported as rain began to fall. We should return to orbit immediately. Commander Voss turned toward their craft, but a massive lightning bolt struck nearby, causing their suit systems to flicker momentarily. The shuttle's exterior lights dimmed and then went out. Power fluctuation in the shuttle, Paul reported through their communication system. Main drive offline. Your ship's the tallest thing in this field during a lightning storm, Jack called, out as the rain intensified. You better come inside instead. Voss hesitated. Their protocols strictly limited contact with primitive species, but the shuttle needed time to reset its systems. The storm was intensifying rapidly, and their suits were reporting increasing strain from the mixture of water and electricity in Earth's atmosphere. We accept your offer, Voss decided. Temporary shelter only. The Draconians followed Jack through the rain-soaked cornfield toward his farmhouse. The humans moved easily through the downpour while the aliens struggled with the slippery ground and increasingly heavy suits as they absorbed water. Inside the farmhouse, the Williams family made space for their unexpected guests. Jack's teenage children, Ben and Olivia, stared openly at the aliens while trying to appear casual. Susan and Sheriff Doug joined them, along with a few neighbors who had been visiting when the shuttle landed. You can take those suits off if they're uncomfortable, Jack offered, gesturing to the living room. We don't mind how you look. Impossible, Eva replied. Your atmosphere would cause immediate respiratory distress and tissue degradation. Susan looked thoughtful. We could seal off a room and adjust the composition if that would help. My garage has some equipment from my NASA days. That won't be necessary, Commander Voss said. Our suits can sustain us for several days if needed. A flash of lightning illuminated the room, followed immediately by a deafening crack of thunder. The lights flickered and went out, plunging the house into darkness. Power's out, Jack announced calmly. Happens all the time during storm season. 2. The Draconians surprised none of the humans panicked. Jack and his son Ben moved around in the darkness with practiced ease, retrieving candles and flashlights. Within minutes, the room was lit with a warm glow that cast long shadows. Does your technology fail regularly? Lieutenant Kira asked, genuinely curious. On Dracon, such a failure would be considered a serious emergency. Often enough that we know how to manage without it. Jack replied with a shrug. Power company will have it back on soon enough. Meanwhile, we've got candles, a gas stove for coffee, and plenty of conversation to pass the time. As the storm raged outside, the humans and Draconians found themselves in an unexpected cultural exchange. The aliens observed how the Williams family adapted to the power outage with minimal disruption to their activities. Olivia continued reading a book by candlelight. Ben played a card game with neighbors. Jack and Susan discussed the alien technology they'd found. Your species shows remarkable adaptability, Eva noted, running scans through her suit systems. Your bodies maintain homeostasis despite significant environmental fluctuations. We don't really think about it that way, Susan replied. Humans are pretty good at getting used to things. Hot, cold, wet, dry. Give us a little time and we figure out how to make do. Sheriff Doug, who had remained cautious but cordial, finally asked the question that had been on his mind. So why did you folks come all this way just to study us? What makes Earth so interesting? Commander Voss considered how to explain their mission without revealing too much. Our world, Dracon, has environmental conditions that would kill most species instantly. Our bodies evolved to survive extreme gravity, toxic atmosphere, and temperature variations that exceed your planet's range. We believed our evolutionary path represented the pinnacle of biological adaptation, Kira added. Our entire society is built around the concept of survival through physiological superiority. Then we discovered Earth, Voss continued. A world with conditions we consider harsh, yet teeming with life forms that should not be able to survive, let alone build advanced civilization. The humans exchanged glances. It was Jack who laughed this time. Harsh? Earth has its challenges, sure, but it's mostly pretty friendly to life. That's why there's so much of it here. Your perspective is shaped by your evolution, Eva explained. To us, free oxygen is corrosive. Your microbiome would be considered a weaponized biological threat on our world. Your UV radiation levels alone would cause cellular damage to most species. The storm began to subside, rain tapping more gently on the roof. Through the windows, occasional flashes of distant lightning illuminated the countryside. I think I understand, Susan said thoughtfully. You evolved for one set of extreme conditions and specialized. We evolved in variable conditions and generalized. Voss nodded inside his helmet. An accurate assessment. Your species lacks our physical resilience but compensates with behavioral and technological adaptation. The light suddenly came back on, causing the Draconians' visors to darken automatically as they adjusted to the change. Jack checked his phone, which had begun to buzz with notifications. "Power's back sooner than expected," he said. "And it looks like word is spreading about our visitors. There are reports on social media, and I've got messages from news outlets already." Commander Voss straightened, his posture showing concern even through the bulky environmental suit. "We did not intend to reveal our presence so widely. Our mission was observation only." "Well, that ship has sailed," Sheriff Doug said, showing them his phone screen with blurry images of their shuttle landing. "Welcome to the age of smartphones. And internet. News travels fast here." Kira received a communication from the Indomitable in orbit. "Commander, the ship reports that Earth communications channels are filled with reports of our landing. Their global information network is spreading the news rapidly. What had begun as a simple retrieval mission had now become the first official contact between their worlds." Commander Voss realized their carefully planned protocols were no longer relevant. They would need to adapt, ironically demonstrating the very quality they had come to study in humans. "It seems we have much to learn from each other," Voss said finally. "Perhaps that is not entirely unfortunate." They believed their planet was the harshest. Then they encountered Earth. By morning, the storm had passed. Sunlight streamed through the windows of the farmhouse where the Draconians had spent the night. Their shuttle systems were back online, but a new problem had emerged. Government vehicles lined the road leading to Jack's farm and helicopters circled overhead. "Your leaders have responded quickly," Commander Voss observed, watching through the window. His environmental suit had run a cleaning cycle overnight, removing the water damage from the storm. Jack poured coffee for the humans gathered in his kitchen. "That's the National Guard, FBI, and probably some other agencies I can't identify. News travels fast." Susan checked her tablet computer. "You're all over the internet. Aliens in Iowa is trending worldwide." Lieutenant Kira had been monitoring Earth's information networks through their ship's systems. "Commander, the Indomitable reports that human governments are mobilizing military forces worldwide. Some appear defensive, others potentially aggressive." "Sheriff." Doug entered the kitchen, looking tired after a night of managing the growing crowd at the edge of Jack's property. "I've been on the phone with state officials all night. They want to arrange a formal meeting with you folks. The governor's on his way, and Washington is sending representatives." Commander Voss faced a decision that would affect not just their mission, but potentially relations between their worlds for generations. Their protocols offered no guidance for this situation. "We should return to our ship immediately," Paul advised through their private communication channel. "The mission is compromised." "I disagree," Eva countered. "This is an unprecedented opportunity to learn about human biology and social structures firsthand." Voss considered both perspectives. "Our mission was to understand how humans survive their harsh world. That mission continues, but the parameters have changed." He turned to Jack and the others. "We will meet with your leaders, but first we need to understand more about your species. Our knowledge is still limited." Jack's son, Ben, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Maybe we could show you around. You've only seen our farm so far." The idea appealed to Voss. A limited tour of your local area would provide valuable context before formal diplomatic contact. After some discussion with Sheriff Doug, a compromise was reached. The Draconians would be allowed to explore the area, with Jack's family as guides, while government representatives prepared for official meetings. A security perimeter would maintain distance between the growing crowd of onlookers and the aliens. Under the bright morning sun, the Draconians emerged from the farmhouse. Even through their protective suits, Earth's environment challenged them. The sunlight contained radiation frequencies their bodies weren't adapted to process. The constant slight variations in temperature and humidity confused their sensory systems. "How do you manage these constant environmental fluctuations?" Eva asked Olivia as they walked toward the barn. "Your clothing appears minimal compared." To our protective gear. Olivia glanced down at her jeans and t-shirt. This is just normal stuff. If it gets cold, I put on more layers. If it gets hot, I wear less. No big deal. Inside the barn, Jack showed them the farm equipment, tractors, harvesters, and tools for working the land. The concept of growing food rather than synthesizing it fascinated the Draconians. You depend on biological processes with countless variables, Alan noted, examining a seed planter. Weather, soil conditions, pest populations, all unpredictable factors. Farming's always a gamble, Jack agreed. But humans have been doing it for thousands of years. We've gotten pretty good at adapting our methods. Next, they visited the small workshop where Susan had been examining their drone. The Draconians were impressed by her makeshift laboratory. You analyzed our technology with these basic tools? Kira asked, genuinely surprised. Susan smiled. I made do with what I had. That's what engineers do on Earth. Work with available resources. Throughout the morning, similar patterns emerged. The humans showed remarkable ability to function across varying conditions, adapting their behavior, clothing, and tools to meet each new challenge. They described living in deserts, mountains, tropics, and Arctic regions, environments that would require completely different physiological adaptations on Dracon. Your species sacrificed specialized adaptation for versatility, Eva concluded as they returned to the farmhouse for lunch. An interesting evolutionary trade-off. Ben overheard her comment. We don't see it as a sacrifice. Being adaptable means we can live almost anywhere. The Draconians couldn't join the humans for their meal. Instead, they conducted analyses through their suits while the Williams family ate sandwiches at the kitchen table. Tell us about your world, Susan asked, her scientific curiosity evident. What makes Draken so harsh that you evolved such specialized biology? Commander Voss activated a holographic projector in his suit, displaying images of their homeworld. The humans gasped at the sight of towering black mountains under a green-tinged sky. Massive creatures with armor-like skin moved through landscapes of metallic vegetation. Our gravity is 1.8 times Earth's, Voss explained. Our atmosphere contains compounds you would consider highly toxic. Temperature variations can exceed 80 of your degrees within a single-day cycle. Life on Draken requires constant vigilance, Paul added. Our cities are not built for comfort, but for survival. Jack studied the images with interest. Looks like a tough place to live, but you've made it work just like we have here. A commotion outside interrupted their conversation. Through the window, they could see numerous black vehicles arriving. Men and women in formal attire stepped out, surrounded by security personnel. Your government representatives have arrived, Voss observed. Sheriff Doug came in from outside. They've set up a meeting area in the field. The President's National Security Advisor is here, along with scientific advisors and military personnel. The time for informal cultural exchange was ending. Now they would begin official first contact between their worlds. As they prepared to meet Earth's officials, Lieutenant Kira received an urgent communication from the Indomitable. Commander, the ship has detected a new weather pattern forming to the west. Their meteorological analysis indicates it could develop into what humans call a tornado. Is this significant? Voss asked Jack. The farmer's expression grew serious. Tornadoes are extremely dangerous storms. Wind speeds can exceed 300 miles per hour. They can destroy buildings, toss vehicles around like toys. Susan checked her phone's weather app. There's a tornado watch for 3 counties, including ours. Could be nothing, but we should keep an eye on it. Commander Voss nodded. Then we shall proceed with the meeting, but remain alert. Perhaps we will witness another example of how humans cope with their harsh environment. As they walked toward the gathering of officials, the western sky began to darken. The Draconians, who had come to study human adaptability, would soon experience one of Earth's most violent weather phenomena firsthand, and learn even more about what made humans so remarkably resilient. They believed their planet was the harshest. Then they encountered Earth. The sky turned an eerie green-yellow color as Commander Voss and his team approached the government officials waiting in the field. A strong wind began to blow, bending the cornstalks and carrying the smell of rain. That color is not good, Jack said, looking at the sky with concern. Weather's turning faster than predicted. The National Security Advisor stepped forward to greet the aliens. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and a serious expression. I'm Catherine Rogers, representing the President of the United States. We welcome you to Earth. I am Commander Voss of the planet Draken, Voss replied through his translator. Our mission was scientific observation, not formal contact. But circumstances have changed. Before Catherine could respond, a loud siren began to wail across the countryside. The humans immediately looked up at the sky, their faces showing concern. Tornado. Warning, Sheriff Doug announced, checking his phone. Not just a watch anymore. They've spotted a funnel cloud 10 miles west moving this way. The government officials instantly shifted from diplomatic mode to emergency response. Catherine turned to her team. We need to move everyone to shelter. Immediately. How many people are on site? At least 50 personnel, plus the media beyond the perimeter, someone reported. Jack stepped forward. My basement can hold maybe 20 people. The rest should head for the storm cellar behind the barn. Commander Voss observed the rapid transformation. The humans who moments ago had been focused on diplomatic protocol were now working together to address the immediate threat, regardless of rank or position. Commander, Eva said through their private communication channel, this severe weather event provides an excellent opportunity to observe human emergency response behaviors. Voss agreed. We will assist while documenting their actions. Lieutenant Kira's suit sensors were analyzing the atmospheric conditions. The storm is intensifying rapidly, wind speeds exceeding 100 of their miles per hour. Barometric pressure dropping drastically. The sky grew darker, and the wind strengthened. Debris began to fly through the air, small at first, then larger. Objects. The government vehicles rocked on their wheels. Everyone to shelter now, Sheriff Doug shouted over the wind. This is not a drill. The Draconians followed Jack's family toward the farmhouse. Around them, humans ran for safety, helping those who moved more slowly. No one was left behind. Their social cohesion during crisis is remarkable, Paul noted. No evidence of the competition or abandonment that would occur in many species. Inside the farmhouse, Jack led them to a door that opened to reveal stairs going down into the earth. Basements this way, hurry! They descended into a simple concrete room stocked with water, food, battery-powered lights, and emergency supplies. Other humans crowded in behind them until the space was full. The rest are heading to the storm cellar, Catherine said as she joined them. All personnel accounted for. Above them, the sound of wind grew to a roar. The building shook, and dust fell from the ceiling. The humans looked worried but remained calm, some comforting children or elderly people who had been brought to safety. This structure seems inadequate for such extreme conditions, Commander Voss observed. On Dracon, our shelters are reinforced with metal alloys. Jack smiled grimly. This old farmhouse has stood through dozens of tornadoes over 100 years. It's stronger than it looks. The lights flickered and went out, plunging the basement into darkness. Immediately, several humans activated light sources, phones, flashlights, and battery lanterns. Once again, they had prepared for system failure. Tornadoes right on top of us, Ben said, checking a weather app on his phone that somehow still worked despite the storm. The noise above was now deafening, a sound like a freight train that made communication difficult even through the Draconians' advanced systems. The pressure changed rapidly, causing discomfort even through their environmental suits. Structural integrity of the building is compromised, Paul reported, his sensors detecting the stress on the house above. Partial collapse likely. For 20 terrifying minutes, the tornado raged overhead. The humans huddled together in the darkness, some praying, others telling jokes to lighten the mood, but none panicking. The Draconians stood in amazement at their collective calm in the face of nature's violence. Then, as suddenly as it had arrived, the tornado passed. The roaring diminished, replaced by the steady drum of rain. The pressure normalized, and the building stopped shaking. Is it safe to go up? Olivia asked her father. Jack waited a few minutes longer. Let's give it a bit more time to be sure. Sometimes there's a second funnel. When they finally emerged from the basement, they found half the farmhouse gone. The roof had been torn away and one wall had collapsed completely. Rain poured in through the opening, soaking what remained of the family's possessions. Outside, the landscape was transformed. Trees were uprooted, vehicles overturned, and debris scattered everywhere. The government convoy was destroyed, expensive cars tossed about like toys. But remarkably, the barn still stood and the storm cellar door remained secure. "Everyone okay over there?" Jack called out to the group emerging from the storm cellar. "All accounted for," came the reply. "No injuries," Commander Voss surveyed. The destruction with new understanding. This was why humans had evolved as they had. Not to resist their environment through physical adaptation, but to survive it through flexibility, preparation, and cooperation. "Your world is indeed harsh," Voss said to Jack as they stood in the rain. "Perhaps harsher than ours in its unpredictability." Jack looked around at what remained of his home. "We'll rebuild. Always do." In the days that followed, the Draconians witnessed something even more remarkable than human survival of the tornado. They watched as neighbors arrived from miles around to help the Williams family salvage what they could and begin rebuilding. They saw government officials working alongside farmers to clear roads and restore power. "They don't just endure their harsh world," Eva observed. "They help each other through it." 6 months later, Commander Voss stood before the High Council, on Dracon, presenting the findings of their Earth mission. The chamber was filled with skeptical faces. "These humans are physiologically inferior in every measurable way," Voss explained, showing images from Earth. "Yet they've thrived on a planet with conditions that would kill most species. Not because they're physically adapted, but because they've developed something we've never considered: psychological and social resilience." The evidence was compelling. Humans routinely survived conditions that should have killed them through a combination of technology, cooperation, and determination. They explored ocean depths, climbed mountain peaks, crossed deserts, and ventured into space with technology far more primitive than Draconian achievements. Their adaptability comes not from evolution, but from their incredibly diverse problem-solving approaches, Lieutenant Kira added. They don't wait for biological adaptation. They create external solutions. Medical Officer Eva presented her most surprising findings. Their medical science focuses on working with their biology rather than controlling it entirely. They've embraced their vulnerability and turned it into a strength. Their immune systems are less specialized but more flexible than ours. The council was divided. Some saw humans as a potential threat, a species that could potentially outpace Draconian development despite their biological limitations. Others recognized an opportunity to learn from Earth's inhabitants. High Counselor Greg, the most respected voice in the chamber, finally spoke. For millennia, we've defined resilience through our ability to withstand harsh conditions. These humans have shown us that true resilience may lie in adaptability rather than resistance. 1 year later, Commander Voss stood in a newly constructed building on Jack Williams's farm, the first official Draconian embassy on Earth. The farmhouse had been rebuilt, stronger than before, and beside it stood a special facility with chambers where Draconians could safely remove their environmental suits. Jack's son Ben now worked as a cultural liaison between the two species, helping both sides understand each other. Olivia had begun studying Draconian biology with Eva. "We came to study a harsh world," Voss said during a ceremony marking the official cultural exchange program between Earth and Dracon, only to discover that our definition of harshness was limited. "In facing your daily challenges, you've developed a resilience we never imagined possible." As he spoke, a spring thunderstorm rolled in across the Iowa countryside. Neither the humans nor the Draconians paid it much attention. They had both learned that the universe contained many kinds of harshness and many kinds of strength.